I think it's very interesting that a lot of people think the army and the military in general is this like elite fighting force.
Mhm.
But I saw something different when I was in. And I'm just curious if you saw the same thing in the Navy. Because I'm not going to speak to your experience, I'm going to speak to mine. And I hear things sometimes from people who are like, "Oh, the military. Oh, I heard it. These are military people." They're like it's all like these are unbelievably like high class people who are better than all the rest.
Mhm.
And in the military, we have a term we say like we're the top 1%, the 1% of people in America at all who've ever served. Did you guys use the same terminology in the Navy about being the 1%?
I mean, I know what you're talking about because when I was in, it all depends on where you're at. Like if you're in San Diego and it's everyone knows the military, they're not going to believe that, right? But when I was recruiting in Bakersfield, like when I was in uniform or whatever, everyone thought that like we were all Navy SEALs or
Yes.
like
Yes.
like what you're talking about, like this
People have an
elite fighting force.
unbelievable respect for the
And I'm
military.
like, no, I'm just a technician on a ship.
Okay, so the average
Mm,
person, and I remember what I felt like about the military before I got in.
okay.
So the marketing works on the
Mhm.
kids. When I was in high school and the Marine Corps sent me a little pamphlet and they came and I did my ASVAB and all that,
Yeah.
I took the pamphlet to school the next day because I wanted the people around me to know that I was considering joining the
That's
Marines.
what the Marines they because when we were recruiting the Navy, we sold the tangibles, the educational benefits, stuff like that. And the Marines, they sold the intangibles, the
Yeah.
tradition, the history, the like what you're saying, just
Don't you
being
want
a
to be a warrior?
yeah,
You
exactly.
know? And I think that
That's
that
why it's a cult.
works because then 99% of people are never going to join the military. And so
Uh-huh.
they have this perception in their mind of what they believe the military is. People know about basic training,
Yeah.
people know about the SEALs, they know about the special forces, and that's pretty much where their knowledge stops. Like
Mhm.
they know we have a really, really strong military and we've won all the wars that we fought,
Mm.
at least as we tell it.
Yeah.
Do you agree that we won all the wars that we fought?
Oh no.
Okay. Um, which ones have we not won?
Which ones have we not won? Well, Afghanistan most recently. The Vietnam War we didn't win.
Okay.
Um, let's see. I mean, we can't really say we won the second war in Iraq, right? We pulled out, and you know.
Did we win the first war in Iraq?
Well, yeah. Well, we accomplished like George Bush. He wanted us. We did what we were supposed to do. We got them out of Kuwait, and we protected the oil. And but it was kind of unfinished because they wanted the people to rise up against Saddam, and they didn't. But
Yeah.
I mean that's probably the closest thing to a win we've gotten in a while.
Hmm.
Yeah, even now in Iran, I don't know.
But
See how that
you're
plays
but
out.
you're saying the last win that America has had was World War II.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
And that wasn't even us by ourselves.
yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of help.
hmm It was really the Russians, man.
The Russians lost way more people than we did.
Yeah,
You know?
they took the brunt of the Nazi, like the Eastern Front. It was like millions and millions.
Interesting. But
Yeah, but back to
by
you.
and large,
Yeah.
people believe that America is an elite fighting force.
Mhm.
When they see someone in military, I believe the average American thinks like I thought. And they see someone in an army uniform and they go, you could probably kill me 7 different ways right now if you
Yeah.
wanted to.
It's the marketing, dude.
You know? You're just the training that's gone into you.
Mhm.
Like you're an elite fighter now.
Yeah.
And I did not find that to be the case when I was in. In fact, without a gun, I don't know how I would kill you right now if I tried. Like, and I don't think I'd be successful if I tried.
Yeah.
Okay. But people think that the military is giving us elite levels of training. So, what I saw when I was in that was different from what I perceived the army was going to be like, I noticed that when I watch the movies, most people in the military are in really good shape. You see 6-packs, you see guys doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
And when I got to the real army, I realized when we do a army physical fitness test, only half of the people pass.
Mhm.
I thought, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was always taught, like, you got to be able to run your 2-mile in less than 13 minutes. Like 2 6.5-minute miles. Like, that's not that hard to do. Like, you're going to be in the military, you know? Like, you're going to go fight a war. But most people couldn't pass the fitness test. All it was push-ups, sit-ups, and a run.
Yeah.
and you had people that were unable to do it. I also felt like, well, I'm the best fighting force in America, so everyone should be able to deploy and go fight a war, right? Well, as an executive officer, I realized that in my company, which was 150 people, only 70 of them were deployable. So we do this like rack and stack every single month to tell readiness to the bigger army, like how many of us could deploy if we had to. Only half the unit was deployable. All of the equipment, all the vehicles, the Humvees, the weapons, on a good day, 80% of it would be deployable. Like the vehicles, some of them didn't operate whatsoever at all.
Yeah.
The equipment was all over the place. It was lost. Like we're always, the company commander who is signed for all this equipment, on an average unit in the construction on the engineering side, it'd be a property book of like $50 million, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that was missing. Every single time they do a change of command, they would do what was called a flipple, where the outgoing commander would basically, here's my list of all the property that I signed for when I became the commander of this unit. And here's the incoming commander. And they reconcile those two together to say, here's the stuff that's actually here that I have physically seen that I'm willing to sign for today. Here's what you signed for. Okay, there's about $150,000 equipment missing here. And hopefully it's not a Humvee or something, you know, it's just like, we're missing some tools, missing a couple, nothing like the weapons they do a much better job of. But there's always a discrepancy, and they would do what was called a flipple, where they would basically write off the stuff that was missing and gone. And it's just, when you think about the most elite fighting force in the world, you don't think that, oh, we're not taking care of our equipment, we're not maintaining it right, we're losing stuff left and right. We would call in the army hands across America because somebody lost night vision goggles, and God forbid the enemy get their hands on that. You know, we would literally like walk through the forest trying to find the night vision goggles, the entire base. And nobody went home until you found it. So you found it too, right? Okay. What was it for you guys?
Well, my ship just got commissioned, right? We left Pascagoula, and then we were going to Mazatlan, Mexico. And then there was this boat that was like overturned, and then it was almost like sunset. And then there was 3 people in the water, and then I think we got 2 of them, but there's still 1 person in the water. But then the sun went down, and it was just like pitch black out there. And then, so basically we were trying to save this person. So they started handing out the night vision, and then, and then one didn't make it back. So that was like, and it sucked too, because we didn't find the guy either, which was kind of wild, but,
damn.
Yeah.
So he died.
Yeah. He's lost at sea or whatever, but
God, man, does that happen?
Yeah. I don't know the statistics on that, but, yeah, like when the sun goes down,
somebody overboard and
it's dark as fuck out there, dude.
Well, I bet it is. But how common is that if you go on a deployment on a ship for somebody to not go home because they like fell overboard or something?
I mean, I don't want to say it's common, but I mean, I've heard of it. You know what I mean? Like, because like on the movies and stuff, it looks like, you know, I saw this one reel, right, and it was basically like what the Titanic, what the movies showed, right, and then it was like what the people actually saw, and it was just darkness, dude, which was like scary when you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, man, like. But
you've lived a couple years of your life out on the water on a ship. So you know how dark it gets out there at nighttime. For all of this great weaponry that we have, you're telling me that if you fall off the side of the ship, there's a good chance you're not coming back up.
Oh, yeah.
And we have no way to go and get you.
First off, you got to hope someone knows that you fell overboard. You know what I'm saying? But that's why they have like the lookouts and stuff. And they're supposed to listen for if you hear like a splash or something. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. And you got to like, you know, hopefully.
Is it hard to fall off a Navy ship into the water?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
you probably gotta want to do it.
Like there's railings and stuff, right?
Yeah, there's railings and stuff, and then also too, it's like, you know, it's secured typically, right? When you're, you know, at night.
What does that mean? It's secured.
Like you're not supposed to be up there.
Okay, so you're not supposed to go on the deck at nighttime anyway.
Unless you have a purpose.
Okay, so if somebody falls off the ship,
the times that I went out, man, I made sure I was lit up like a Christmas tree, dude. Yeah, with like chem lights all over me and shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So, but you know, there's a real risk if you're on top of the ship
Yeah.
at nighttime walking around, storm, big wind
Yeah.
gust, I mean, you go overboard and that's just that's it.
Yeah. It's scary, man. Like, but again, like it's very hard to do. And typically people that are lost at sea, they did it themselves. They
Yeah.
jumped off or whatever.
So these are people committing suicide?
Yeah. So,
Oh, really?
mhm.
That's interesting.
Which I'm like, that's like probably to me, that's like, I would not want to go out like that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know
a
what I
rough way
mean?
to go.
But,
But the ships are high enough. If you just jump in the water from the ship,
mhm.
do you actually drown, or when you hit the water, do you get knocked out?
No, you're not gonna get, because like I've jumped off the ship during like swim call and stuff.
How high? How many feet we talking about?
Oh man, I wish I knew. Like,
You guesstimate though. Guesstimate.
You know, well, from like the fantail, whatever, that's probably like 20 feet or so, whatever, 10. Like, but then like you could jump off like the bridge wing, and that's like 50 feet up. You know
Okay,
what
so
I
the
mean? Like,
fantail is paint a picture for me of this ship, because
Yeah.
I know nothing about these ships.
it's just the back of the ship,
Okay.
where the helos land and everything.
So helos land on the fantail,
Yeah,
and it's like 20 feet off the water.
yeah,
But
something like that.
it's a flat deck though, like almost
Is
like
it
a
20?
mini.
Like, I don't yeah, it's a flat deck, right? Because like the DDG, it's like you got the back of the ship and then it goes up.
DTG.
DDG,
Okay.
a destroyer. Yeah.
DDG.
A guided missile destroyer, yeah.
Okay.
So
That's on the back of the ship,
uh-huh.
along with the fantail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so but yeah, when we do swim calls and shit, like, you know, you're jumping off that typically.
Okay.
But sometimes, like I was talking about
20
the bridge
feet is
wings.
pretty high. That's
it's
pretty
pretty
high.
high,
Yeah.
It's a little scary, you know.
No, I mean, I don't cliff jump or anything. I mean, the
Yeah.
only times I've ever jumped, I've gone in the Army. We did like water safety and water confidence courses
Uh-huh.
where you would do a balance beam and you zip line over the zip line. You might be 80 feet up in the air as you start. But
Yeah.
you don't drop until you're like 5 feet from the water.
I guess
Like that's cool, but
well,
the balance beam is like 40 feet up, and you have to go up
Mhm.
over a step. And people don't. I was so scared to death on this thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're 40 feet up in the air, walking on a balance beam, and you feel all of the wind, and it wasn't a windy day, but you're already on edge. And I'm black. I'm not good at swimming. Okay, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to get in this water.
the stereotype is
But
true.
once you climb up, once you
Yeah.
climb up, there's only one way out.
Uh-huh.
You have to jump,
Yeah.
right? So you walk this balance beam, and in the middle of the balance beam, there's a step that you have to go up and over. And it's too big for you to go like all the way over. Like you have to step up onto it and then back down. Then you straddle, and there's a rope that hangs from the top, and there's this bar that goes all the way across. You hang from that, and it's a 40-foot drop into the water from there. And I was scared to death, dude. But once you get there, you can't get down any other way. There's a line of
Yeah.
people waiting behind you who like need you to go. So you drop into the water. It knocks the wind out of me at 40 feet. Knocks the wind out of me.
Uh-huh.
You're full battle rattle. Like just I'm having a hard time swimming back to shore. I'm kind of like disoriented. And long story short, I make it. What I will say though is that water confidence course, I was much more confident in the water after having that experience
Good.
than I was before
It
doing
worked.
it. It worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And they do a heights confidence course the same way, where they get you used to doing things up at height
Uh-huh.
that you wouldn't normally do. And that's one thing about the Army that I do think they do a great job of. You cannot leave without being confident
Yeah.
that you've done things that are so hard
Mhm.
that you would have been scared to do, and you're not given a choice to not do it.
That's cool.
Water confidence course. Okay, but getting back to this. So you did the 20 foot on the,
Yeah.
but there's also a higher part of the ship that you could jump off of too.
Yeah. But when you were talking about like if you jump off a carrier, and again, I don't know the dimensions of that, right? But
Yeah.
that's like way higher than a destroyer, right? So maybe that
Because the carriers, they go up like this, and it's like a flat
Yeah.
top, right?
Yeah, it's high.
It's like a-
There was like, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, like the elite fighting force and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was just going about my day right on the ship, and totally didn't know this was gonna happen, but all of a sudden, it was like one of those things where they just needed somebody, right? So all of a sudden, I was a part of the prisoner detainee like team or something like that.
You
And
had
then
prisoners on board the Navy
like,
ship?
if we ever had one, so they have to have a roster, and my name was on there for some reason. Again, I've never
Okay.
been trained on this or anything, right? But all of a sudden, I'm that guy, and for some reason, we have to actually do a simulated transfer of a prison to a another ship. And so again, like I totally didn't even know this was gonna happen that day. And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, I'm on the rib, which is the it's like the speedboat of the ship, right? And we're going to this this gator. It's not a carrier, but it's a big deck ship, right? But this thing, it's out there and we're on the rib. And I just remember being like scared shitless on that thing. Because I've never been on it. And the dude was just like, he's like just freaking whipping this thing like a Civic, dude.
Yeah.
Or whatever on the water. And the whole time I thought I'm gonna fucking fall off this thing or get like flung out. Which I think a couple weeks ago I saw a story of like an incident that actually happened or whatever. But
That's called the rib, though.
yeah, the rib.
The rib, and it's
The
a
rigid
speedboat.
hull inflatable craft or something. Yeah.
Okay.
So we had two of them. But yeah, so
But it's not stable. Like it's not like
it's
you feel like you're about to fall in the water all the time.
You know what I mean? Like,
Is it one of those ones that's the big fan on the back of it? That's
no.
going?
Okay. Yeah. It's just it's a fucking fast boat, dude. Like,
Okay.
But yeah, so we're going, and then we get to the other ship, right? Again, it's this big deck. And there's like this net that all of a sudden I have to climb up this thing, dude. And I've never done this before or anything. And I'm and you have to time it to where because the ship was like listing hella or whatever, or it was just like, you know, in the water. Just so basically I remember I was sitting there trying to time it, and then I got on, right? I got onto the net, right? And I timed it incorrectly because the next thing you know, the one side of the ship went up and I'm just like midair now. And there's no like safety harnesses or nothing, dude. And then I'm just like climbing up this thing. And then just to like basically go up to the quarterdeck, you know, and then I was only up there for like a couple seconds. I just had to show I could do it. Then I had to climb back down.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing up here?
And this is a simulated prisoner transfer that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Would the prisoners also have to climb up the deck as well?
We all had to do it. And it was just like, why are we doing this, dude? You know what? And again, I never had any training or anything on that. But I was on the...
But you proved that you could do it.
Yeah.
Because you're part of the nation's elite fighting force.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? That's wild, man. I mean, most people have no concept of the size and scale of these ships. And I don't, because, you know, for an Army guy, I never went anywhere near these boats.
Yeah.
I've seen the ones that are out there. These aircraft carriers, I mean, I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong.
Let's Google it, man.
How high is, what do you think it is as I'm looking this up? Like, how high are these aircraft carriers
50,
from the water?
60 feet.
How high is an aircraft carrier above the water? Typically, the flight deck runway is 60 to 70 feet above the water, about a 5 to 6 story building.
Close.
Dude, jumping off the side of that would be,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to bounce on the water, but that's like, are you going to be conscious when you hit the water?
Yeah, if you pencil dive.
If you do it right, you have to do it right though.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever seen anyone in the Navy do
Jump off
that
a
as like, do people do that for like stunts and things like that? Or no, not a thing. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
But people like cliff jump and stuff, I'm sure they do 60, 70 feet.
I did because I actually cliff jump in Washington, and they said that this cliff was 70 feet.
70
and
feet.
I almost had time to scream twice. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I would never have jumped.
yeah.
Like you would.
Oh, it took
you would have
forever.
had to push me off that thing.
Yeah, me and my
It's not a
buddies, because
chance.
it was like kind of like what you were talking about. This is when I was a kid though, but you climbed up it and you had to jump off basically.
Yeah.
But we were up there for like hours, dude, and just like we started hawking loogies on each other and stuff, just to like make each other like try to jump or whatever. But
Peer pressure is a powerful tool, but there are some people that are just not susceptible to it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings up a good story because I remember I got in the military through ROTC. So that I got a free ride to college, but I had to serve afterward. So when I was in college, we don't go to basic training. Like the college experience over a 4-year period is considered the first half of basic training. And then when you're in between your junior and senior year, you go to what they called LDAC, Leader Development Something course, in between your junior and senior year, and that's considered your last part of basic training. So you're there, you know, out in the field, sleeping in the woods and stuff, doing missions and for 30 days. And part of that was the water confidence course, and part of it was the heights confidence course too. They also put us in the gas chamber, and everyone gets gassed, and they take advantage of you as a cadet because like there is no lower rank in the military than a cadet.
yeah,
Okay, and they really They really abused us. But I remember that was the first inkling that I had that not everybody here is like as badass as I would have thought they would be. These are all college students, all cadets. But up to that part, I wasn't part of like a high powered like West Point program or anything or like Naval Academy. It was a normal school, but it was like people who really wanted to be in the army. Like they wanted to go lead people in combat. And this is 2010s. This is like the height of the Afghanistan war. Like we all thought we were going to graduate and be kicking in doors and like being infantry stuff. So that's what we thought we were going to do. God, am I glad that did not happen. But that's what we signed up for. And I remember getting to LDAC, and I was doing it at Fort Lewis in Washington. And there's like 20,000 cadets there in the summertime, and a bunch of support and logistics and like real Army people who are there to support that and make sure that we all get trained the right way. And I'm looking around at these other cadets, especially the girls, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you're not cut out for this.
Yeah.
Like you're joining, like you're gonna go lead people in battle. Like that's what you wanted to do too. And I don't mean to be like misogynistic about it at all, but it was just looking at the differences between the guys who were there, like the just built, ready to go to war, and then the women who were there. And it was this thought process of like, what job are you gonna be doing? Because we're not doing the same job. Like we're not training for the same thing. And then you would see these gender play out as we're there. Because everybody's scared of heights. Everybody's afraid of doing the stuff in the water and going over a 100-foot zip line without a harness on and then doing this like water confidence course. Everybody's afraid to get gassed. Like nobody wants to go through that, but it's part of what everyone has to do. The only people I saw who objected to any of those things were women. I never saw a guy get so scared that he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing There's no way. No, I'm not. No. But they basically had to push him over the side. I only saw that with the women. But by and large, it was my first eye-opening experience of seeing we are not all the same. And now I'm not even talking about men and women anymore. Now I'm talking about just across the board. It wasn't elite fighters who were there training to go to war. And of course, the Army is huge. We have logisticians and people who are going to do like cybersecurity. Like, not everyone is going to go fight a war. And I didn't go fight a war either. I was combat engineering. I never even came close to fighting a war. There, obviously, the people who were going to go and branch and go infantry who were preparing for a little bit more. But you just got that first eye-opening experience of like, these are not all warriors. In fact, half the people here aren't warriors at all. And some of them have to get booted over the side to do the zip line, which is supposed to be fun.
There's a quote, though. It was from Admiral Bull Halsey, because my first ship was the USS Halsey. And it was, there are no extraordinary men, Steve. There are only normal men put in extraordinary positions or
Do you
situations.
believe that?
Yeah, I think because like they talk about World War II as the greatest generation and stuff, but it was like they were just in that situation. I think typically people will step up, if they're put into. But I guess what you were just talking about. If they can object, they'll object. But if they can't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
so you think people become warriors? They're not born.
Yeah,
warriors.
I mean, there's definitely people that are born to do it, right? But I feel that, if you're put in that situation, it might just like kind of turn on. You know what I mean?
One of the ways that the military marketing works so well is they will flat out call out. There are some people who run toward trouble when everyone else runs away. And a lot of people want to feel that about themselves. That like I'm the type of person that would go run towards the trouble.
You want you want to feel that you are courageous and stuff, but like let's see you get put in that situation and then you'll see like, oh shit, I'm a fucking coward.
It makes you wonder though. And for those of us who have not been tried, you do wonder. Like I always thought about when I was signing up for ROTC and I really thought I was going to go fight a war in Afghanistan or hit the tail end of Iraq. And I you go through the thought experience, especially when your mom is talking to you where, she's like, are you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to go fight a war? And she's all concerned about you. And you're kind of like, man, if I ever got captured, would I break? Like I thought about that. Did you ever think
Yeah.
about that?
Oh yeah.
You know, like if I was being tortured, like would I give up the intel that
Mhm.
I had on the people that I cared about? And you don't know. Nobody knows until it's
Yeah.
happening to
Until you're
them,
in the
right?
yeah,
Like
exactly. But there's like some forms of torture where I'm like, yeah, I'd be singing like a canary. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah. So
I heard a quote, and it it was just everybody breaks.
mhm.
Everybody breaks. Like assume when someone gets captured that they gave up everything that they knew.
Yeah.
Because you might last a couple of days, but if we can get you out of there for a couple of weeks, like either you're dead or you told them everything, but probably both,
Mhm.
you know? Because humans are not made to resist
Yeah.
torture like that.
They do have that. You've heard of SEER school, right?
Yeah.
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 So
SEER school, that I don't know what it stands for, but I know all the pilots in the army had to go
yeah,
through SEER
it's
school.
survive, evade, resist, and escape.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know what SEER school is, this is like the military's training that you go through where they simulate you getting captured by the enemy and you have to try to evade, but then they capture you, then you have to escape. And
Yeah. But
so
they can do like you ever seen G.I. Jane?
mm-mm.
Well, yeah. Well, if you ever watch G.I. Jane, it's a good kind of depiction of it. But yeah, they can like open hand slap you and
Yeah.
put you in a box and stuff, and sleep deprive you and all sorts of stuff.
Did
I
you
never
go to
went through
SEER
it, though.
school?
No, I didn't. But I was supposed to be a SEER instructor.
Yeah.
But then something happened on the ship, and I lost those orders, and then I became a recruiter at Bakersfield.
Yeah. Dude, I
So,
had two people on my podcast who went through SEER school. One was a pilot and
uh-huh.
one was a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And you hear them talk about what they went through.
Mhm.
Um
I heard they
It
have to kill a rabbit.
yes, and survive off the land
Yeah.
and try to evade. But no matter how much you evade, like they're going to get you because you can't graduate without having been like they want to torture you a little bit.
Yeah.
As much as we're allowed to torture someone here, so you have some semblance of like what that's going to feel like.
Uh-huh.
But the things they do to people, like put them in a box, the types of interrogation, the sleep deprivation that we put people through. And of course you have to prepare for it. Like that they're doing what they have to do to make it happen. But it forces you to accept a reality, whether you're a warrior or not. Anyone who joins the military has to underwrite in the back of their mind, like that could happen to me
Mhm.
at some point.
Mhm.
Whether or not you're the badass killers, the ones that I'm talking about, the people that are maybe not everything I thought they were going to be, you're still signing up to go to war.
Mhm.
Like you are signing up to put your life at risk for others. And I think that's commendable. And there's like everyone that I served with, I give them that credit that, hey, you signed up, whether or not you deployed or not, like you signed up to go and do that. And I think
Yeah.
it does put you into a higher patriotic class than the average American because you were willing to go and fight for your country. You didn't get drafted into this. Like
Yeah.
you signed up. And I don't care if you signed up for the economic benefits or to get to the middle class or if you came from a poor, I don't care about that. You did sign up to go to war
Mhm.
and you didn't know what was going to happen when you were in. So in that sense, I do feel like everyone that serves the military deserves some credit. Everyone deserves the benefits that they get after the military just for signing up.
Mhm.
Just for signing up. The mere fact that you volunteered to serve.
I agree.
I think you deserve those benefits. You deserve your VA loan. You deserve your VA compensation. If you came in and you were disabilities on the way out, like you deserve all of that. But it cannot be understated that the public perception of the military today,
Mhm.
in some ways, is kind of making up for the way that they treated people coming home from Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that way? That
Oh,
we
yeah.
treat people so shitty that when you and I served, man, you go somewhere in uniform, you hardly paid for anything.
It was a little, yeah.
it was
it's
like
a little much.
awkward. Like you're at Starbucks and you're in uniform.
Especially
I just
at
want a coffee.
Bakersfield, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I remember feeling like this is how a celebrity feels. Because like I would go like a Starbucks or Subway or something like that. I'd be in uniform, and I can just feel the eyes on me, or I would just know, okay, this person's about to pay for my food
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah. Which is, and it's not, you don't really want them to pay for your food. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people have a hard time accepting even compliments from other people.
Yeah.
much less like I'm perfectly capable of paying for my own coffee in line. I just stopped here because like you guys also wanted coffee. I wanted a coffee as well. I didn't do it so you could pay for it. And I always felt like I was taking advantage of people when they would pay for my stuff, because I thought to myself, like, man, I'm probably making more money than you are.
Mhm.
And you're paying for my coffee. Like, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But I also thought in the back of my mind, dude, we treated Vietnam vets so bad that the children of the people that treated them so bad are now trying to undo that by going
Yeah.
the opposite direction. And oh, we love our men and women in service, you know, and oh, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. And I always felt bad saying, like, accepting that, because it's like, well, I haven't even deployed.
Mhm.
Like I haven't done anything. Like I've only gotten benefits from this. They paid for my school. They paid for my master's degree. You know, I've got all these certifications. I'm set up so well to leave the military
Yeah.
because, and I never even had to go like fight a war. Trained for it, but never actually did it. And I just thought that was interesting, that the perception, all the benefits that we get today, in particular, I think the way that they're treating now the VA compensation, where it's like
You know how I feel about that.
you cough or sneeze and you get VA compensation.
Mhm.
And politically, no one's ever going to go against VA comp, which
Yeah.
if there was a place to look for fraud in the government, like, why did Doge not go anywhere near VA compensation?
It's the military.
Because
man.
politically,
Yeah.
those are veterans.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You don't mess with veterans.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's not right. But Bill Maher talks about this. In this country, we go pendulum swings all
Yeah, I
the
was
way
gonna
the other
say,
way.
yeah.
You know, it's never in the middle of like, let's just be reasonable and fair. It's, we got to make up for what we did to these veterans. I used to work with a guy with special forces when I was in the Corps of Engineers. I was a green suiter in a civilian agency. So we
Yeah.
were in this trailer managing government contracts. And he was one of the guys that would go out to the job site and make sure that the contractors were doing stuff the right way, and that before we paid them, they had actually accomplished what they said they'd accomplished. He was a Green Beret in Vietnam. And he told me this: Steve, they treated me so poorly when I came back from Vietnam the first time that even though I had left hell, I volunteered to go back.
Yeah.
And he would talk about it. There'd be tears in his eyes when he was talking about it. He had more tears in his eyes about the way that Americans perceived what he was doing over there when he was sent to go
Baby
do a
killer
job and
all
did
that.
it. Yeah. Like, we were treating him worse here than he was being treated in Vietnam.
Yeah.
People were spitting on him. Like, at the beach. That's wild. And we are the recipients of this change of mindset about the military now, of like, God bless our military. The military can do no wrong. We got through Abu Ghraib, right? And people are still like, God bless
Yeah.
the military. Like, the scandals, none of that matters anymore, because it's like, well, we're not going to treat them bad like we did with these Vietnam vets, you know?
Mhm.
And that I find very interesting. I consider myself fortunate to have served when I did. And that public perception is so high that there's so much respect for the military. But I want to go back to the premise of the conversation, because that public perception comes along with the thought process that everyone in uniform is a warrior. That was not my experience. I would say about 5% of the people you see in uniform are warriors, are warfighters.
Mhm.
Less than 1% of the people you see in uniform are SEALs or Rangers or Special Forces, the real people who have been invested in, the fighters, the killers, who are the ones who go out and win our wars for us. Then you have a really small contingent of the Army that is infantry, whose job it is to go in and massively win these wars.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the Army is logistics or engineering in my case. Like, I was in a construction company. We built stuff. And so when my perception of the Army versus someone who was doing infantry or special forces is probably very different. But the people I served with, there were a lot of shitbags. There were a lot of fat people who couldn't pass a PT test, who were not deployable. They still got paid.
Mhm.
And I looked around and I thought, some of this stuff is shameful.
Yeah.
That I'm standing in formation in the most elite fighting force in the world with fat people.
right?
Does that bother you when I say that?
Isn't that what that's what Hegseth's trying to fix, right?
He's trying to get rid of the fat generals. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's definitely true. And it's funny because like there's always like those people on the ship that kind of like you, right? Where they thought that they were, and you can see because like they were kind of like the SEAL wannabes and stuff.
Mm.
So they try to get that in some way, like, oh, okay, I'll join the boarding team or whatever, and because like it's like they didn't realize that they're signing up to just be like an electronics technician or something like that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be a warrior to do that.
They also don't market those positions.
No.
Like you've been a recruiter.
Yeah.
So I am sure as a Navy recruiter, you were selling people on becoming a SEAL, right?
No, I was the challenge.
Come on, dude.
There, like when I was trying, like especially because that's what the Marines would do, right?
Yes.
But that's what I would always tell because these little high school kids, man, they would talk crap, dude. And but I'd always tell them that like I'll be like, so why you join the Marines or whatever? And they're like, oh, because it's a challenge, blah blah blah. They're like, oh, the Navy isn't shit, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh really? I was like, you want a challenge? That's what you want? I was like, what about the SEALs, dude?
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, and I'm like, oh, you don't want that much challenge. You just want the right amount of challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah, because to me, when I was selling the Navy, it was always sort of because I was in Bakersfield, it was getting you out of there, and then sort of just the educational benefits and stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, I think the military has great benefits to offer people, and I don't know anyone who's left the military who is as destitute as the veterans I see on the side of the road who don't have jobs. So I know
it's kind of weird. Like
that's there.
Is that person really a veteran? Like,
and I don't believe it when I see it.
Yeah, sometimes
I don't think they're veterans.
Yeah,
and some of them I know are.
Yeah, and that sucks.
But by and large, I served with a lot of people, and none of them are homeless. Say what you will about the military. The problem we have is suicide in the military. People kill themselves, but you don't have homeless people leaving the military. By and large. And I know there's some exceptions to that. And so when I see someone on the side of the road holding a sign that says veteran and homeless, I'd like to see their DD-214. I'd like to see where they served and know that they are a veteran. And if they are a veteran, we should help that person out. Because if their mind is messed up because of it, that's what VA compensation is for, to get those people up on their feet. And if they literally can't hold a job down, the VA is going to pay that person $5,000 a month to be able to have subsistence, and they deserve every penny of that. But if they're truly a veteran, they can go after that compensation. So we have to ask the question of how many of the people who say that they're veterans that are down on their luck really are. I question it.
Yeah.
I just don't believe most of them are. Can you think of anyone that you served with who's homeless today?
Nope.
But you have plenty that killed themselves, right?
There's been a couple. I think it's just like the information though too, like because because we have a mutual friend that was a Marine like in the 90s, right? And he should have a lot of disability, right?
Yeah.
Because he actually seen combat stuff like that, but he has nothing because he's never went out and tried to get it. I don't think or whatever. But and then now, like you're seeing with the internet and everything, as far as the claims and stuff, they're just a lot more educated on how to go about getting that stuff.
Well, I'll say this. If you are a veteran and you think you deserve VA compensation and you have zero today, there's never been an easier time to put a claim in because it is a reverse engineered system. And with the help of AI, there are companies out there that will help you to do that. And most people I know that have a VA compensation that's coming to them have used a company to help them to do it. Because if you're doing it by yourself, I did mine by myself when I got out. I didn't have any help. And it was rigorous. And they know the thought I had on my mind? The Army spent $250,000 on my education between my undergrad and my grad school. I learned how to write, how to craft arguments, and how to reverse engineer process. That's what I learned in school from engineering and then in engineering management and business. I was extremely qualified to go figure out how to get what I wanted, being given the manual from the VA of if this is wrong with you, you get this much compensation. If this is wrong with you, you get this much compensation. And we are compelled to do it if this is the case. It's all in the manual. So you take someone who's been given $250,000 of education and taught how to reverse engineer a system. Like, I'm uniquely qualified to go out and do my own VA compensation claim and get what I want out of it, right? Like they invested that into me and I used it to my advantage. Okay, for everybody else who didn't get $250,000 of education on the front end before they got into the military, who gets access to the GI Bill and can go and do it now, and they don't know about all of this that they can go and get for themselves, that's why it's kind of cool that in this day and age, you have these companies that exist.
Mhm.
I used to not feel that great about them, but now I think there's a lot of people who need the help, who don't have the wherewithal themselves to make the right compelling argument. I served with a lot of people who didn't have any education at all, who hadn't taken advantage of any of the educational stuff when they were in the military, and they weren't able to write a compelling argument in essays supporting why the VA should give them compensation.
Yeah.
Now that's been made easier for them. And so I think these companies are doing quite a service. And I would encourage people who have zero, who fought a war, to go talk to one of these companies and get compensation for what they have, because you are not the same person that you were before when you came in the military. That's a guarantee, you know? But for you as a recruiter, you're selling the dream to people of what they're going to become when they're in the military.
Mhm.
And it's not just going to be a SEAL, which I joke about that. Like, most people I know in the Army wanted to be a Green Beret, didn't make it, and so they became a cook. You know, like this guys, I would have been a Green Beret, but now I'm a gate guard.
It is
you
kind of
know?
weird how they do that too. It's like first off, because you have to be smart to get in those programs, and then you're obviously pretty physically fit because you got through like kind of the pre-qualifications.
Yeah.
But if you fucking don't make it, we're gonna make you an undesignated fucking deck seaman.
Yeah.
So
You go on any military base in America, there's a gate to get in. Like, these things are not open. And standing at the gate is a private first class, a specialist, or a private who's there checking your ID and then maybe looking in the trunk of your car to make sure that you're not bringing a bomb on or doing anything you're not supposed to be doing. And I remember going on to base every day, and I was brand new to the Army. I was what they call a butter bar. So I'm a second lieutenant in the Army. I don't know what the equivalent is in the Navy. What is that?
An ensign.
An ensign. Okay. So in the Army, you wear this, like, it's like a gold bar on your chest. And it's funny because you're not a gold bar for very long. Like 18 months, you're a gold bar, and then you get a black bar and you're a first lieutenant, and then people treat you with like some level of like decency and respect.
You got a little street cred.
It's embarrassing. Like, you think you're an ROTC, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna become an officer, and people are gonna respect me, and like it could not be more apparent that no one respects you when you're a second lieutenant. Like, you know, like nothing. Even as a first lieutenant, they say the first real rank in the military for officers is 03. That's when, like, you've been in long enough that you kind of know your way around. It's the same way. Okay, and that's lieutenant in the Navy, right?
The best ensigns are the ones that are kind of, they know that, but then the junior officers or whatever. But the worst are like the academy grads that for some reason they think that they're still in like the 17th century, where they're just like with some uneducated, like, you know,
you peasants,
crude sailors or whatever. But they have that attitude, and but then they quickly get a reputation, you know.
By and large, most people enlisted in officers don't like these military school graduates because they come in and they think they're better than everybody. And the problem with it is most admirals and generals come from those military academies. So there's a conversation to be had around the people who stay in the military are by and large from those academies who thought they were better than everybody else. And they stick around long enough to become part of the problem, or to be the problem on that too. And I have a couple good friends that went to West Point. It's the Army's version of it. But most of the people that went to West Point that I served with, I didn't like them at all. I thought they were cocky. I thought they had this pompous attitude about them that, like, oh, I went to West Point, you know, like, I am the Army. And it's like, dude, you just showed up, man. Like, you know as little as I do about what's going on. We're here to learn. And at the end of the day, in the Army, the job of an officer who's not fighting a war, you're administrative. Like, your job is to help out the battalion commander who has 1,000 people with people coming in, people going out, their awards, make sure they stay organized, they show up in the morning, and then help out with the disciplinary issues if things aren't. That's the job of a new officer in the Army. You are an admin. For lack of a better word, you're a secretary.
Yeah.
Who does have a decent amount of power and a property book and is technically in charge of people. I tell people one of the best ways in the world to grow up is to join the military, because you will be given way more responsibility than you could ever get working any job outside so quickly within the first 4 years that you're in. And on the officer side, the day that you get started in the Army, you're probably going to have like 40 people that you're technically in charge of. Right? Where else in the world can you get a job like that?
Right.
That you have that much responsibility, and you're required to go and earn the respect of those people, because while they technically are supposed to like listen to you and they might be like, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, there's the ones who are respected who know what they don't know and admit that they're there to learn and to serve and to assist and to help. And then there's those that come in and think, oh, I'm in charge.
Yeah.
I'm an officer. Okay. You enlisted runts over there. Okay. It just, and you could tell those people, and most of the guys that felt that way that I saw came from West Point, came from the military academy.
Yeah, the academy grads are the worst, man.
Can't stand them. Can't stand them. So what I'm getting at with the whole recruiting piece, though, is when you think about the military, sometimes you think we're recruiting the best and brightest. My perception is that we're recruiting people that don't have a lot of other options. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, typically, my experience in Bakersfield, it was kind of the lower income and all that. But it wasn't always like that. So a lot of times, like, it's because the ASVAB, to me, right? You take the ASVAB, and that actually shows if you're like actually smart, right? And basically, a lot of the kids and stuff that I would recruit, they just weren't good at school, right?
Yeah.
But they'd get like a fucking like 95 on the ASVAB or whatever.
Based out of 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which means they scored better than 95% of people, right?
Yeah.
And then I had like some kids that were like, they're in calculus and stuff like that, and then they'd get like single digits, dude.
Really?
Yeah. And then it was always the same shit. They'd say, well, I don't really do this kind of basic math or whatever. And I'm like,
How do you break the news to someone that thinks they're smart?
No, well, there was what I used to do, because like I'd feel bad, right, if like someone would score like so low.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would honestly, I would kind of fib or whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, you got a 5. I was like, typically you want to see at least double digits. I wouldn't tell them it's at 100 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Dude, you failed the app.
Yeah, I'd be like, just go study, you know what I'm saying? And then come back or whatever. And then, but then I would never hear from them ever again.
Yeah.
But then
what percentage of people would get single digits on the ASVAB?
Well, I mean, yeah, we do things called, because you take the pre-test first, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to show you, like, if you score anywhere. When I was recruiting, you needed at least a 50, because anything 50 and above, they call that upper mental group, right? And then there's the lower mental group. Anything below that, I think now they're letting in like 30s and like I don't know, they're just letting in anything now. But that's what you were shooting for, right? But you put them on the pretest, and basically if they got, because typically you score 20 points higher. Right. But I remember sometimes we would save these people that would score like 10s and 8s and whatever. And we call them rock runs. like if we were really hurting, dude, we would call them up, but like, fuck it. We're just gonna roll the dice. And then we just stuff the van full of like, these lower scores or whatever. And then we just hope we we just hit it, dude. Like one of them scores a 50 somehow or whatever. But yeah, so there was also other things too that I started noting, like to just know, like this person's going to do good. There was a question that I would always ask, when they came out of the practice test. I'd be like, so how'd you think you did? And if they said good, that was probably not a good sign. But if they said, I think I did well, that was like, oh shit. And then I'd go in there and they score like a 70 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that was always like, and for real, that was like a method. I would see the score, but it was kind of cool, like being able to predict it like that.
Yeah.
You know, because that's one of the big things in the ASVAB is like your word knowledge and paragraph comprehension and like English basically. So,
do you think that the ASVAB military test to get in is indicative of what makes a good sailor or soldier?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying before, like I feel like the ASVAB, because people could say what they want about it, right? But to me, it really just shows if someone is book smart versus like actually smart, like they have the aptitude and everything. But I've known some really good people, right, in the Navy or whatever that scored like a 30 on the ASVAB.
Yeah.
But they were able to get in or whatever, you know what I mean? And then they went up to chief and all that stuff. So really, yeah, I mean, it's a good indicator, right? You know, as far as what you have the aptitude to do, but then at the end of the day, it is like on you and you know what.
What about for the guys that will become SEALs?
Mm-hmm.
What ASVAB scores
Well,
are SEALs getting?
Yeah, like you got to be smart, right? I don't know the exact right, but basically the big thing about SEALs and all that was like they have to be self-motivated. You know what I mean? Like not so much like team sports and stuff, but like you're looking for like the wrestlers and you know those kind of athletes or whatever. And I think that's the biggest thing that would like separate somebody.
Yeah.
You know.
It's interesting you say that because one of the companies that I'm operating in today is mostly Green Berets.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm around these guys. I feel like an inferior man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not just the fact they can all grow massive beards and I can't, but it's just they're better men than me. They're warriors, like real warriors who've gone to battle and laid their life on the line for they understand that life is bigger than them, even bigger than their family. Like the things they were fighting for, they're not fighting for their land, their people. Like they're out in Syria and Africa, fighting for other people groups. And it's just a different mentality. But when you're around real warfighters, like those are the people you should be paying coffee for. Those are the people that we should all be making sure they get all these benefits on the back end of it. They're real warfighters. It's not the rank and file of the military who deserve our praise. It's those men. Because without those men, we don't win the wars that we win. And I feel like there are a contingent of people that come in that want to be like the SEALs and the Green Berets, and they don't make it. And we put them in some, BS job and they do their Army existence and then they get out. But I'm curious your perspective on the people who stay in, because everybody knows the Army is and the Navy. It's a good gig, 20-year retirement.
Yeah.
And you get paid the rest of your life on the back end of that. Why do I feel like the best and brightest and the best warriors are getting out of the military before 20 years? And the ones who couldn't do better in the private sector stay in for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's usually what happens. I want to count myself amongst those people, right? Right.
You did 10 years, right?
Yeah, I did 10 years.
You were 10 years from retirement. Why get out?
Because it was like the politics, the leadership, because typically it's like you said, there's the people that stay in a lot of the times, they're probably not the best leaders and stuff, but the fact that they stayed in or whatever, all of a sudden now they're like the chief or whatever. And they're in charge. And cause like I got buddies that stayed in, right. And they were like dirt bags, dude. But they stayed in. And and I love them, right? They're my friends and stuff, but they were not the best sailors or anything, and just gun decking and things like that. And but they stayed in, and they're freaking chiefs.
Yes,
you know.
But the military is a time-based promotion system, by and large.
Yeah,
there is merit involved as you get to the higher ranks, but by and large, it's time-based promotions.
Yeah.
So if you stick it out for 20 years and you're willing to to just put up with it,
Mm-hmm.
they'll make you a chief.
Yeah.
They'll make you lieutenant colonel.
And that was like I actually had like case studies. Some of my buddies, you know, I was like, oh, that kind of just proves it right there.
Dude,
But,
it's one of those things where if you think about like rank in the military,
uh-huh.
your rank does not make you good. Your rank does not mean that you're good.
No.
It just means you stayed here for a while.
Yeah.
Our government is no different. Oh, you're a GS-15? Cool. So you've been here for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. It doesn't mean you're good at your job.
I think that's what drives a lot of people out, and even like in the private sector or whatever, just having a normal job. Like if your manager or whoever's above you is like you're just like I'm smarter than you or whatever. You have that attitude about that. Like it's like you don't want to, you know, you don't want to stay there or whatever. But
how much of a consideration for you was the fact that you knew you could make more money outside the military than you were making in the military to go along with the
I didn't
shitty
know.
leadership?
I was a little.
You didn't know that.
I was scared, dude. Like, but it was like, you know.
What were you making in the military when you got out?
In the military when I got out, I don't know, because like you get BAH and everything, so I don't know, maybe like after tax and everything, I was pulling in like 70, whatever, 80K or whatever.
Yeah, that's about where I was too when I got out.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
I was
it's a
at
strong
E6.
wage. Like
Yeah.
you are making, at least for a family of four, you're making middle class wages.
That's what bugs me too, is like, and again, I'm not bashing the military or anything, but like it's like you get that where people are like, oh, the soldiers are underpaid. I'm like, are they? Because I remember all the tax-free incentives and stuff that I got, and I'm like, who's getting underpaid? It's the E4 and below that are getting underpaid, but they should be underpaid. They got to earn their way up. But
that's the thing about the military, though, is you have people saying that people are underpaid.
Yeah.
We're in the military being like, they're not being underpaid.
Yeah.
Okay. Like they're getting exactly what they deserve for the amount of work, for the value that they're bringing to the table to prepare
people
for a
just
war
look
that
at
we're not fighting.
the base pay, right? But there's so many other things that go into the pay.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It ends up being a lot. There's so many things that I think about when I remember my time in the military, and the incentives are all wrong in the military. Here's a good one. You know what the divorce rate is nationally?
50%.
50%-ish?
I don't know.
Do you know what it is in the military?
Probably 90%.
It's over 100%.
Oh, damn. How is it over 100?
Because people have multiple divorces.
Oh, okay.
Multiple
Wow,
divorces. The divorce rate in the military is over 100%.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Okay, why do we think that is? And people always go, oh, well, because they deploy, you know, it's hard on the families and all that. And I go, nope, wrong. You have all the reasons that it should be why there's a high divorce rate, but it's actually not that at all. It's because in the Army, if you don't want to live in the barracks.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
And you're not an E5 or higher, you are not allowed to live off base.
Yeah, so you get married to your buddy or
you
whatever.
have to get married.
And you give him a little. Yeah.
To not live in the barracks, which is basically a prison cell, the size of it. And you may or may not have a roommate in there
I was
too.
advised
in very
to do
close
that.
quarters, right? They say, well, if you get married, then we're gonna give you a house to live in.
Yeah.
Based on how many kids you have, and if you're married or not, the military decides how big of a house you get when you live on base. And you have the option to live off base, and they'll give you a certain amount of money to go live off base. But if you're not a sergeant in the Army or what's E5 in the Navy? What is that?
Second class.
Second class. So if you're not a second class or a sergeant, an E5 or higher, you have to live in the barracks unless you're married.
Yeah.
So we give people a dual incentive to get married in the military. Number one, you don't live in the barracks anymore. There's no more of that prison cell life for you. By the way, you also have no privacy whatsoever at all. We do health and safety inspection in the barracks. It's absolute BS the way we treat people in the military. But okay, so you don't have to live in the barracks anymore. Number two, we're going to give you a place to stay, a nice house to stay in. Or we're going to give you money to go get a house off of base. And so people get married in the military long before they should because there are benefits tied to it. And in the Army, we would call the women that would marry these soldiers dependopotamus.
Yeah. Same thing.
Same thing in the Navy?
But I'm not sure if you were going along, but basically there's a lot of fake marriages. Yeah.
For deployments, I bet.
Well, just to get that BAH, get that money, dude. Like,
yeah.
Because I had a I had a buddy that did that. I remember, like, when I was saying I was advised to do that, there was this guy in dispersing, and I just remember him telling me, he's like, "You don't have like a friend at home that would just like, you can just give him a little like basically he was telling me I should get married to a friend, and then they will just give him a little bit of money every now like
Yeah.
month or whatever." And oh yeah, and I remember actually going down the list. I'm like, oh, maybe she'll marry me. I never did it, right? But yeah.
But that is, it's a two-way con there, because there are people who are in the States, in the military, who get married, who don't want to get married,
Yeah.
but they get more money for it and they don't live in the barracks anymore. So they'll like fake a marriage. There's also the deployment con, which if you deploy and you don't have a spouse. So if you deploy and you don't have a spouse, the basic
Single people
subsistence
always
that they
get fucked.
give you, they take away your housing allowance while you're gone. And you get deployment benefits and pay while you're over there. Like, that's great. You don't have anything to spend your money on, so that's fine too. But the military will take away your housing benefits if you're single and you deploy. But if you have a family, if you have a wife, if you have a spouse, they will continue to pay the BAH, basic assistance for housing, and pay you all the rest of that stuff too, because you have a spouse. So this is the con. You're about to deploy and you're not married. So you get married real quick. And then you have your spouse move somewhere like a really expensive city.
Yeah.
Where their parents live or where their family, where they have friends. So here's how it would work. You're stationed in Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I'm at.
Okay.
And you're single, about to deploy. So you're going to lose your BAH, your basic assistance for housing. You get married to a girl who lives in Miami, Florida with her parents. So you're going to go and be gone for 12 months for this deployment. Well, now the basic assistance for housing, BAH for Fort Knox, might only be like $2,000 a month. But in Miami, it's based off of like the cost of living. So it's $8,000 a month in Miami. So you go and rent a place in Miami and pull the $8,000 a month, but you're not actually paying rent. It's a side deal that you're saying you're paying rent to somebody. Maybe it's her parents,
I knew people
right?
that would make fake leases.
Fake leases, right? You go on the deployment for 8 months and you work out some deal with this girl. I'll buy you a ring. I'll give you 0.25% of the money. I'll give you half the money, whatever that is. But there are sham marriages that go on in the military because we incentivize people. How do you get a divorce rate over 100%? By incentivizing people to get married in multiple ways and then basically fucking over single people and making it impossible to be single unless you're kind of like, you know what? I'll make less money while I'm in. I won't get all the benefits that everyone else gets. I guess I'll just suffer through it.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild to me. And people don't know that the divorce rate in the military is over 100%. But when you look at the numbers, you go, nope.
Yeah.
100%. How wild is that, dude?
That's crazy. That's sad, but yeah.
It's sad. It's only sad half the time when it's a real marriage.
Yeah,
That doesn't
exactly.
work out, right? But when you have all of this, and so not that I'm saying that the military is full of fraud. It's not that. It's just people are going to do what you incentivize
they'll
them to
take
do.
advantage of whatever.
Everyone's going to reverse engineer the comp package however they possibly can. And in the military, it's set up in such a way that the best way to reverse engineer it is to get married.
Not me though,
That's the way
Steve.
it
I
is.
just
You held out, my friend.
I was a sucker, dude.
Okay.
I'm 85, but that was like life changing when I finally started getting BAH. It was amazing. But
Okay, so you got E5, and how many years? It took you a couple years to get there?
I think it took me like 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years.
I remember missing it by like it was like 0.3 my first time up.
Yeah.
And then I just remember my chief coming up to me. He's like, "Hey, do you got any awards or anything we don't know about?" And I was just like, "No." And he's like, "Nothing." I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, you missed it by blah blah." And then he's like, "Also, you need to get out of the mess decks because you're gonna start cranking next week." Because that was an E4 and below thing, and it was my turn or whatever.
What is cranking?
Cranking is working in the kitchen. You know, it sucks or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was like, boom, you didn't make it, and then he sent me there, and I'm like, it sucked. But
So in the Army, it's barracks that we're talking about. When in the Navy, is it the same thing? We have
you live on the
barracks.
ship.
You live on the ship.
Yeah, but then sometimes.
Wait, so you live on the ship, but everyone else lives off the ship?
Yeah,
if they're married and stuff?
Yeah. Well, sometimes.
Why'd you get married, bro?
I don't know, man. Yeah.
You kidding? You lived on a ship for 4 years.
No, I know. So
In dock.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did actually.
And the alternative was you could have lived on the base.
I didn't care though,
in
dude.
housing.
To be honest, like living on the ship, it sucked, right? But like, I don't know, man. Like,
but you could have had a house.
Yeah, I know, but. If I go back in time, but
so you could have been divorced a couple times at this point, you know.
But really, I mean, I did.
I'm glad you held up, man. You're a man of character.
Yeah.
You know, no one can say you're not a man of character for you to hold out and live on the ship for that long. When you got to get this in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else on that ship who's already in E5 and above gets to commute to the ship every day. You wake up at the ship.
Oh no, I was gonna say though, because like the alternative too was just to get an apartment with like 4 of your buddies.
Sure,
yeah.
But when you were allowed to do it,
well, no, you're allowed to do that.
I thought, wait, so in the Army you aren't allowed unless you're in E5.
That's what I was gonna
to
say.
live off
like,
the ship.
No, you can. I can't remember the rules, but I remember, like I was able to do it. Like,
okay,
but I did live on the ship for a pretty long time before I did that. But
so this is a distinction of the Navy and the Army, because in the Army you do not have a choice. If you are E5 and below, you will live in the barracks unless you get to that rank, or you get married.
Barracks is nice though. That sounds nice.
It's not. I'll tell you why it's not. We have beautiful barracks in the Army. Beautiful. A lot of brand new buildings. In fact, when I was in the Corps of Engineers doing the engineering side, we did some really nice barracks.
And you're an officer too, man. So
I never lived in the barracks, right? But I know about the world class that we would ping pong tables, pool tables, like the rooms themselves were set up like prison cells, size wise. You'd have a concrete wall, like it wasn't anything like super nice, but you could decorate however you wanted to. And then there were common areas, and it's young people. These are like 18 to 22. Like it would be rare for someone to be like 25 years old living in the barracks because they either got married or they hit a rank where they're not in the barracks anymore. So it's a lot of young people that are in the barracks. The problem with living in the barracks is that you have zero privacy and you live on government property, which means it can be searched at any time.
Yeah.
You don't own where you live. I can't come to your house if you live off base and just walk inside and do a health and safety inspection to make sure you're doing okay. But in the barracks, we would routinely do it once a quarter.
Really?
Dude, the piss test day.
Yeah.
Everyone gets phones start ringing at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody got to get the formation. We're doing formation in 45 minutes. They would practice this stuff to make sure we could get there in an hour and be ready to go. And they get us in formation. You didn't know if we were deploying. You had no idea what was happening. Yeah. And it was like, all right, everybody go pee in a cup. Yeah. And then after you're done peeing in a cup, all of the leadership's going to go walk through the barracks, and we're going to go see if the barracks are being maintained.
Yeah.
Are they clean? And we're going to go start people's drawers to make sure that they don't have pornography, that they don't have alcohol, because you can't have alcohol in the barracks, right? Unless you're 21, right? And it's like, you don't have any freedom when you're living in government property, and other people can just come in whenever they want and start going through your stuff.
Yeah.
It looked like prison to me on the health and safety days when we would walk through and you're just like ransacking somebody's shit, And the kid's standing there like parade rest, while the officer's going through his stuff to be like, oh, what condoms, huh? But you would find something. You'd find crazy stuff. So we did. We had a drug dealer living in the barracks, who had joined the Army specifically because he was part of one of these like cartels, but that his job was to go join the Army so that he could be the dude in the barracks that was distributing for them in the barracks.
It's like The Departed.
So he had a girl that OD'd in his room.
Oh my god!
And that's how he ended up getting caught, right? And when they went through his room after he got arrested, this is a crazy story. They went in, the girl didn't last, like she died. He feels awful about it. He was a good dude too, by the way. He was not like who you would think a drug dealer would be. Like he was a normal, like he was one of the best soldiers that we had. And they opened up his safe. All the drugs are in there. And this is like LSD, but it's like tabs. Okay. So it's like Listerine tabs and stuff you put in your tongue.
Acid.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea. But that's what he was selling people. And it came like a little Listerine tab thing. And basically she ended up overdosing on it. But also in that safe where we had all the drugs was like bags of diamonds, bro. Like black velvet bags that you open it up, like you see in the movies.
Diamonds?
Little tiny diamonds.
Uh-huh.
And that's how he was either paying for the drugs or he was getting paid. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I just know what they found in the room.
Some gems.
And then we find out that he's tied to one of the cartels.
That's wild.
And guess what? Ask me how long he went to prison for.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Nope. Nope. Honorable discharge.
How do you pull that? No, the cartels.
The army is not set up to prosecute.
Mm-hmm.
Laws like that. This was all committed on a military base.
Yeah.
So he didn't break any federal laws where you have like the FBI coming after him. A girl ODs in his room. So she died because of drugs that he gave her.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all the paraphernalia that goes along with it. And we know that he was selling to people. Here's what I think happened. I think they gave him a deal with an honorable discharge to just tell who he sold the drugs to.
Yeah.
And just tell them a little bit about the operation that he was a part of. Because we all had a meeting afterwards. They're letting us know, like, hey, he's part of one of the cartels. Like, we got to watch out for this stuff. Here's the warning signs.
Yeah.
No jail time at all. If that had happened 20 miles away off the base, he'd be locked up right now.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
But
That's
instead,
wild.
he goes free, and that's just the way it is. So the army is its own beast, man. But the barracks and the way that people live inside of them, it's just really interesting that it has this connotation where it looks like, oh, this great housing we provide for people. But in reality, it's like, no, the day it's all being searched, it feels no different, I bet, than when you're in prison and someone's looking through your stuff to make sure you don't have a shank in there, you know, like going through your toothpaste. And like,
have you seen the barracks though in San Diego on the west side? It's called Pacific Beacon.
No, I never have.
Yeah, but they're like these giant towers, but those are like luxury, and they have like a pool on the roof and stuff, and
dude,
and it's just a bunch of E4 and below living there, and like everyone we all knew, that's like sit rep fucking central right there, dude. Like, and that's what it became. Like I remember partying at Pacific Beacon, but yeah, so they're not all that bad.
Explain to people what sit rep central means.
It's just a lot of incidences, like alcohol related instances,
alcohol,
and,
prostitutes.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But
not all branches are the same.
mm-hmm.
And if I was giving someone advice who was planning on enlisting in one of the branches, I would just tell them, don't join the Army. Navy and the Air Force are pretty nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the bases are all near the water.
Uh-huh.
Like, what's the worst Navy base you can go to? Probably Virginia, right?
Yeah. That's what I would pitch too. I would tell them that. I'm like, yeah, you get to travel. Like, you can travel in the Marines, or I was like, you'll go to like places like Afghanistan or Iraq.
Yeah.
And I was like, with the Navy, we'll go to Australia, we'll go there, and that's the thing too. It's like we're all on the coast.
Yeah. Dude, there's so much stuff that everyday people don't know about the military.
Yeah.
And one of the things we'll do on this podcast, we will have conversations like this, and we'll talk about the things that people don't know about. And it's just interesting as we're talking, so many stories coming up in the back of my mind that I'm being reminded about what it was like. It's a very different existence. If you're not of that world, you just don't know. And 99% of people will never have any concept of what we're talking about.